Let us know when we good.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, all praises and double honors due to Yahweh, Bahashim, Hamashiach, Malak Yahweh Shai. All right, again, another double honors, to the elders in HOY, right? Again, all praises and double honors due to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, right? Bring out Psalms 133 and 1, Dr. Sure.
The book of Psalms, chapter 133 and verse 1. It reads, Lord, my heart is not haughty, nor my eyes lofty. Neither do I exercise myself in
131 and 1. He said 133.
Yeah.
You said 133 and 1? Salaki, the book of Psalms, chapter 133 and verse 1. Behold, how good and how pleasant is it for brethren to dwell together in unity.
All right, it's beautiful when brethren dwell together in unity. Because once you're amongst brethren, words of wisdom is going to come out, right? It could be precepts, it could be accounts, it could be dates, even in the history. And that's what today's lesson is on, right? The brief account of every slavery that we've been in, right? Bring out Exodus 20 and 2.
The book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Right, I'm the Lord your God, which have brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Right? Only the Israelites have so many accounts of slavery. In fact, we're really the only ones that can say that we've been enslaved by every nation. No other nation can say that. No other nation can pull out the dates, the precepts, the accounts. Neither can they pull out the books or the records to prove that they've been in captivity by another nation. And I'm talking about hardcore bondage. We're not speaking of indentured servitude, right? That's what the Irish went through. That was indentured servitude. They signed up to do that, right? Even certain Moabites, they came over here, signed up to get paid pennies. That's not slavery. Bring that out one more time.
The book of Exodus, chapter 20 and verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
That's right. I got one more. Bring out Luke 24 and 15.
The book of Luke, all right, chapter 24, so verse 15.
That's like 21 and 24.
The book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 24. And it reads, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
It's like that. And I always tell brothers, whenever you read, you have to get the context. Know who's speaking to who, right? It works no difference than any other book that you're reading. You know who's speaking to who's he talking to, who's the audience.
All right.
Right? So read that one more time. Read it slowly.
The book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 24.
Because a lot of Christians say you're reading that out of context. No, we're reading literally within its context. That's how we're able to understand through the scripture. That's like you understand the scriptures. Go ahead.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
That they are the Israelites. They're going to fall by the edge of the sword. They're going to be slaughtered. I got you. 1 second. They're going to be slaughtered, killed. All right, go ahead.
And they shall be led away captive into all nations.
That they, again, is the Israelites. And are going to be led captive into all nations. Not just one, not three, not five. Every nation under heaven. All right, read that one more time, King.
The book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 24. The book of Luke, chapter 21 and verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
Now, some people may be simple. What nations? I don't know. Read one last verse, Psalms 83 and 1.
The book of Psalms.
Most people, I don't know which nation, I don't know who I am today. Maybe I'm a Moabite. It doesn't matter, right? Let's say you really, I don't know, a damn Hamite. You still put us into captivity. Let's say you was a Moabite or an Elamite. You still had us in slavery. Therefore, you have to go to slavery, pursuant to Revelation 13th chapter. You got it. Psalms 83 and 1.
The book of Psalms, chapter 83 and verse 1. Keep not thou silence, O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh.
This is David. It's like, read the first part. Let's see. Actually, this is going to tell us.
The book of Psalm, chapter 83 and verse 1. It says a song or psalm of Asaph.
Right.
It says, keep not thou silence, O God.
Keep not thou silence, O God. Lord, don't hold your peace anymore. Right? Lord, speak up. Do something. Go ahead.
Hold not thy peace,
Mhm.
and be not still, O God.
That means be violent. Right? Throw your hand down. Put the weapons down. Go ahead.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head.
Go ahead.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people.
The Lord's people, his people, thy people are the Israelites. Go ahead.
And consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
That them are the Israelites. Let's cut them off from being a nation. How are they going to do that? You have biological warfare. You have sociological warfare. You have different types of warfares to actually destroy people. You don't just always go to, pick up your sword and slay them, right? There's many different ways to destroy people. Go ahead.
For, Salakia, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted against, Salakia, for they have consulted together with one consent.
They all came together on one accord and said, well, look, this is how we're going to make Israel fall. Right? Go ahead.
They are confederate against thee, the tabernacles of Edom,
Edom,
and the Ishmaelites
Ishmael,
of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gibor, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assur also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot, Salah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin at the brook of Kaisan, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth.
see that? That's plain upon tables. All these nations, they put us into slavery, hardcore bondage. So we actually have to prove this and bring up accounts. Not only accounts, through sources from the internet, but also throughout the Bible as well. A lot of people think this is a fairy tale book, but this is a historical book. This is your culture. So it's going to tell you what major events happened to your people at what times. You understand? So we're going to dive into the brief accounts of every slavery that all these nations put us through. Brothers got precepts to pull it out.
I just had one. Where you go for This is the book of Baruch, right? Chapter 4 and verse 6 reads, ye were sold to the nations, not for your destruction, but because ye moved God to wrath. You were delivered unto the enemies.
Like the brothers brought, we were sold to the nations, plural, right? Because all the nations had us in slavery. Yeah, precept. I got some precept after that.
I had one because I want to let me back over what Yada said, saying like we really the only nation that can say that. We've been in slavery like with everybody. This the book, this the classic, the book First Maccabees, chapter 2 and verse 10. What nation have not had a pot in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? So what nation basically have not trodden us down, man?
I was gonna get that precept, but I got another one. Get Jeremiah 2 and 14.
Book of Jeremiah, chapter 2 and verse 14.
All right.
Reads, it says, is Israel a servant?
All right.
Is he a homeborn slave?
All right.
Why is he spoiled?
Right. So Jeremiah had to even ask the question like, dang, is Israel just a homeborn slave, man? Why is he so destroyed? Why is the nation in captivity all the damn time? Right? He had to pose that question because Israel was always going to captivity, even during the time of judgment. Right? But we're going to touch on the major captivities, all starting with Egypt. Right? So get Judith 5. Start at verse 9, I believe.
Book of Judith.
All right, get the historical background to dive into the history of the Egyptian captivity. That's the first captivity. All right, bring it up.
The book of Judith, chapter 5 and verse 9.
Right?
Then their God commanded them to depart from the place where
I'm
they.
sorry, verse 8.
Verse 8,
Right?
the book of Judith.
Now this is Ammonite, right? He's basically describing the history of the Israelites because the nations knew about the Israelites, man. Right? They knew about our history, they knew about our records. Right? So bring that up.
The book of Judith, chapter 5 and verse 8.
Right?
For they left the way of their ancestors
Right?
and worshiped the God of heaven.
Right? That's going into Abraham's father, or Terah. Right? Read.
The God whom they knew. So they cast them out from the face of their gods, and they fled into Mesopotamia and sojourned there many days.
Right? That's when they had left from Ur and they went to Haran. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 9. Then their God commanded them to depart from the place where they sojourned
Right?
and to go into the land of Canaan.
Right? And that's talking about Abraham. Right? So when they was in Haran, the Lord came to Abraham and said, let's go to Canaan. Right? Read.
Where they dwelt and were increased with gold and silver and with very much cattle.
Right? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they all had different ways to increase their wealth. Right? They was passing it down and increasing it. Right? Like Jacob increased his wealth through the vine. Abraham, he went into Egypt and the Pharaoh was giving him gifts. Right? Different things like that. Right? Read.
It said, but when a famine covered all the land of Canaan,
Right?
they went down into Egypt.
They what?
They went down into Egypt.
Right, but when a famine hit Canaan, that's when they went down into Egypt. Right? Now, who was dwelling in Egypt at this time? Joseph, right? Get Psalms 105.
Book of
verse
Psalms,
18.
chapter 105 and verse 15 reads, saying, 105 and 15?
You can start at 16.
The book of Psalms, chapter 105 and verse 16.
Right?
Moreover, he called for a famine upon the land. He brake the whole staff of bread.
Right, and that's talking about Canaan, right? It's the same famine that hit Canaan. Now, this is during the middle kingdom of Egypt, right? When Joseph was there. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 17.
Right?
It say, and he set a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a said.
Right, so Joseph was sold into Egypt, right? He was sold into Egypt as a slave, right? Which was common practice in Egypt. But the Lord actually sold him just to preserve Israel, right? So keep reading.
Verse 18. Whose feet they hurt with fetters. He was laid in iron
Read.
until the time that his word came. The word of the Lord tried him.
Right?
The king sent and loosed him, even the ruler of the people, and let him go free.
Right, that's talking about Pharaoh. When he was in that dungeon, he set him free, and then he gave him his dream. Right? It's like he interpreted Pharaoh's dream. Right? Read.
Verse 20.
Right?
Salaki, verse 21. He made him lord of his house and ruler of all his substance.
Right? He made him ruler over all the substance. That's what Pharaoh ended up doing. He ended up lifting up Joseph to this high position. All right, let's get the account. Get Genesis 41.
Book of Genesis.
And where we want to start first. Get verse 40.
Book of Genesis, chapter 41 and verse 40.
Right?
It say, thou shalt be over my house.
Right?
And according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than you.
Right? And that's talking about Joseph. Right? So he literally set up Joseph to be above the land. Right? Read.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his wing from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen and put a gold chain about his neck.
You see that? Now, Google viziers, Vizier, and then type in Egypt right after. It's not popping up. Oh, it's like Vizier, and then type in Egypt next to it. Right? see if we can get something to pop up.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Wait, we got that's the first one. Click that first one, right? So this is a vizier. The vizier,
Oh, it's like
right? It says the vizier was the highest official in ancient Egypt to serve Pharaoh during the Old, Middle, and New Kingdoms. Vizier is the generally accepted rendering of the ancient, cycle of ancient Egypt. Let's scroll down. I want to show where it basically says he's second in command. Get out of this. Go to Google and look it up. All right. I type in vizier definition Egypt. Right? So that's the highest official that served Pharaoh. And that's literally what he just said. He said, nobody only in the throne, I'm greater than you.
on Wikipedia.
No, not Wikipedia. Just scroll down. Scroll down. Put that right there, worldhistory.org. Ancient Egyptian vizier. Right, scroll down. Right, scroll up, look at that first little bit. It says, the vizier in ancient Egypt was the most powerful position after that of the king. Right, so this isn't like some fairy tale made up story. This is known facts in Egypt that they had men set up as viziers. Right, that's talking about Joseph. Right, scroll down.
Like a prince for me.
Right, yeah, like a prince. Right, scroll down. I want scroll up a little bit. I want to show that it says this right here. It says the vizier was responsible for the operation of the following governmental agencies: agriculture, financial, right, the judicial, military. So he was over all these different things.
Military.
Architectural. And he was over all
Interior.
these things.
Religious.
Joseph. Right, and what did Joseph do? He set up something to where to where basically they had the corn in the field. I mean, they stacked up all the grain. Right, that's what Joseph had set up. So Joseph went into Egypt and was set up as the vizier. And the Lord made that happen so Israel could go to Egypt, and that's where they could grow. Right, so go back to Judith 5 and 10 real fast. Right?
Pretty certain to land back on what you just brought out.
Yeah, kind of did, yeah.
It was what you was already going into. This Psalms 105 and verse 22. It say to bind his princes at his pleasure and teach his senators wisdom.
All right, that's exactly what Joseph did. That's the position of the vizier.
And Esau has something today called the Secretary of Agriculture, right? That's what Joseph was doing, you know.
Secretary of Agriculture.
So he had a lot of knowledge and a lot of things. You can't just wake up and I'm vizier.
Right.
You just wing it. No, he had wisdom, knowledge, and understanding.
That's
Right. I mean, you gotta know who his father was and who his father was, so on and so forth down the line.
Joseph was real.
Esau only has this smidget of knowledge on how agriculture works. You know, it's the basic little things that can make your garden turn into a damn beautiful Garden of Eden versus a desert wasteland. Little as how you plant it, how you sow it. So agriculture is very important for society. It tells us even in Sirach 38, a society or a town cannot thrive even if that just collapse. You know, it tells you all the things that you need to have a functioning society, and agriculture is one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take that out, it's a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
We see that today. All these food places, what do you call it? Food plants fall short. Yeah, that's a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
Farmlands, they start raising more prices of farmers, and they start controlling how much they can grow, how much they can sell, produce. That's a domino effect. So, all of this goes to show that Joseph was a very wise man. And he saved Egypt. Of course, not for Egypt's sake, but really for Israel's sake.
All right, and that's what we're going to read right here in Judith 5 and 10. So this to understand they went down to Egypt and why did they go down and things like that. Joseph was set up as the vizier, the top guy. You got to read Genesis for yourself, right, from 39 on through the rest to get the full understanding But Judith is just going through, you know, quick redemption of the history. Right, so Judith 5 and 10.
The book of Judith, chapter 5 and verse 10.
Right,
But when a famine covered all the land of Canaan,
right,
they went down into Egypt
right,
and sojourned there
right.
while they were
And
nourished
they were nourished in Egypt. Right, read.
and became there a great multitude,
Right,
so that one could not number their nation.
right. And that's when they grew into a mighty nation. Right, after Joseph was set up, the famine hit Canaan, and then they came into Egypt, and they ended up dwelling in the best of the land. Right, and that's in Genesis. Let's get Genesis 40. What is that? It's like 46 or something. Goshen. I'm talking about when they dwelt in that Goshen. Just to show they dwelt in the best of the land. Genesis. So I can bear with me. Possibly. Let me look this up real quick.
Right here, 28, 40, 46 and 28.
Yeah, that sounds about
They
right.
came to the land into Goshen.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, bring that up.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 46, and start at verse 28. It saying he sent Judah before him unto Joseph to direct his face unto Goshen, and they came into the land of Goshen.
But I really want to show they say it's the best of the land.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, is it Genesis 45 and 2?
Possibly. Right. 47 and 6, yeah. Bring that up.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 47, and verse 6. It say, the land of Egypt is before thee.
Let's start at 5.
The book of Genesis, chapter 47, verse 5.
Right?
It say, and Pharaoh spake unto Joseph, saying, thy father and thy brethren are come unto thee. The land of Egypt is before thee.
Right?
In the best of the land,
Right?
make thy father and brethren to dwell.
Right, they dwell in the best of the land. Because Goshen, like Google Goshen real fast. Right, Goshen is right in the Delta Nile. That's where all the rivers are. That's the greenest part of Egypt. Right, no, you want to look at the map. You want Bing, but it should pop up.
I'm going to change the search engine.
Right, go to images. Right. Right, so Goshen is in modern day Tel El Dubai, right, or it's the city of Avarice, right, the Hyksos capital, right, this area, and that's where all the rivers are. Because Egypt is a desert, but then you got the Nile and it's split off, and that's some of the best of the land right there. That's where roughly it was around that area, right? So keep reading.
Genesis.
Yeah.
Genesis 47 and verse 6, reading on. It says, in the land of Goshen, let them dwell.
Right.
And if thou knowest any men of activity among them, then make them rulers over my cattle.
See that? So they dwelt in the best of the land, so they was able to grow and prosper and become a mighty, mighty nation within this time frame. Right? So get Judith 5 and 11.
The book of Judith, chapter 5 and verse 11.
Right?
Therefore, the king of Egypt rose up against them.
Right, so after Joseph passed, you had a new king, Moses the first. Right? He rose up and put Israel in slavery. It's going to say that, right? Read.
It says, therefore the king of Egypt rose up against them,
Right?
and dealt subtlety with them, and brought them low with laboring and brick, and
Right.
made them slaves.
And did what?
And made them slaves.
So that's how we became slaves in Egypt. During Moses' reign. Right? Go to Moses first in Wikipedia. Right? Because first you had, well, before we get that, keep that tab. Let's look up the Hyksos. Right? Because you had a famine in Canaan, so you had a lot of foreigners coming into the land of Egypt at the time. And then there was a famine in Egypt which weakened the land, and that gave the opportunity for the Hyksos to come and conquer, which was foreigners in the land of Canaan. Right? Go to Wikipedia. So they actually took over right after the time period of Joseph. Right? Just click on Wikipedia right there. Right? Hyksos just means rulers of a foreign land. Right, so you had Canaanites mixed in within this, right? That's what it means. It says rulers of foreign lands. Right? Check it out. It says the seat of power of these kings was in the city Avaris in the Nile Delta. Now Avaris is modern day Goshen or Tel El Dabah, which is Goshen. Right? So they was around that same exact area. Keep reading. It says from where they ruled the lower and middle. What's going on? Where they ruled over lower and middle Egypt. Right, keep reading. Or scroll, it says up to Kesis. And the Egypt was Egyptology, a history of Egypt written by Greco-Egyptian priest and historian Manetho in the 3rd century BC. The term Hyksos is used to designate people of probably West Semitic Levantine origin, right? That's those dwelling in Canaan. While Mathino portrayed the Hyksos as invaders and oppressors, this interpretation is questioned by modern Egyptology. Instead, Hyksos might have been preceded by groups of Canaanite people who gradually settled in the Nile Delta from the end of the 12th dynasty onward, right? Because that's the time frame of Joseph, the 12th dynasty of Egypt, right? So you had Canaanites coming during the famine, right? And they end up settling there, and then they end up taking over Egypt. So Atmos, that's where he comes into play. Do we have anything on that particularly? I'm going to go to Utmost. Right, go to Utmost the first. Now, Utmost the first, let's see what he did. He said, Utmost, sometimes written as, I'm going to read this part. It says, was a pharaoh and founder of the 18th dynasty of Egypt, classified as the first dynasty of the new kingdom of Egypt, the era in which ancient Egypt achieved the peak of its power. Right, that's when the Lord took them down during the 18th dynasty at the peak of their power. Right, I must keep reading. It says he was a member of the Theban royal house, the son of Pharaoh, and the brother of the last Pharaoh of the 17th dynasty. During the reign of his father or grandfather, Thebes rebelled against the Hyksos, the rulers of Lower Egypt. Now, Lower Egypt in their term is really above. Right? That's just how they look at it, because of how the Nile is set. So their world is upside down. So they was ruling in the Nile Delta. Then below them you had the Cushites, and in the middle you had the last bit of the Egyptians, which was the Theban dynasty. And he came and conquered from there, right? Basically, so he ended up conquering. Matter of fact, I'm gonna read that next paragraph. During his reign, Amos completed the conquest and expulsion of the Hyksos from the Nile Delta. Right, so once he expelled them and kicked them out, he looking and saying these foreigners still here, hey, let's put them in slavery, man. Right, that's literally when you keep reading even that last paragraph, it says this building program culminated in the construction of the last pyramid built by native Egyptian rulers, which we know is just slaves. And even when you scroll down real fast, and click, keep scrolling. I want to show during his reign, he was actually doing building projects. I'm going to try and see if I can find that. Here we go, right here. It says, with the reunification of Upper and Lower Egypt under Utmost, a renewal of royal support from arts and monumental construction occurred. Right, he started having them rebuild things, man. That's what he was used for. Even when you read this last little paragraph on this side down, it says, although, if you see that, it says, although the exact nation. You see that right there? Down some more, over to the right, it says, although the exact nation. It's above this. It's above this to the left, kind of pointing toward it. Right there about 44. Right there about 44. It says, although the exact number of the Crete is uncertain, it's like, although the exact nature of the relationship between Egypt, it says in the Crete. That's actually why I want this last part, Slaki, where it says utmost reopened the right Turmer limestone quarries to provide stone for monuments and use Asiatic cattle from Phoenicia to haul stone according to his quarry inscription. Right? So what do they build things with? Stone and brick, right?
Exactly.
And limestone.
Can you Google what the pyramids were made out of? What type of stone?
So he enslaved them and made them build these different cities with brick. Yeah.
And then began they started the furnaces. They say limestone. Can you go back to the previous article? Where we left off, what was the last thing you mentioned? It says, utmost reopened, by 43, utmost reopened the Torah limestone quarries to provide stone for monuments and use Asiatic cattle from Phoenicia to haul the stone according to his query inscription. All right. And again, who built it? We did. Literally us. Now, this is Bible archaeology by Alfred Horth and John McRae. Get this off Amazon. It reads, just to land me back for brothers say, it's Wikipedia. You know, you always got scoffers in this thing. I don't know, where's more? It reads this. The Hyksos, we have to say that the Hyksos were in Egypt for approximately 100 years, and some Egyptians adjusted to their presence. In Upper Egypt, however, frustration over the rule of part of the country grew into hatred, then finally to what has been characterized as wars of liberation. Utmost, often identified as the Pharaoh who did not know Joseph in Exodus 1:8, is credited with the expulsion of the Hyksos from Egypt and from the founding of Dynasty 18. I'm gonna jump down. It reads, I'm gonna keep going. And some Dynasty 18 took up where the Middle Kingdom had left off. Art and architecture, for example, repeated earlier themes. However, no more pyramids were built. Instead of pharaohs were buried in the guarded valley of the kings of Thebes. And we know that they lied about that because we built pyramids. Can't get around that. Their tombs entrances were hidden, and their monumentary temples placed outside the valleys. Also changed the Egyptians' attitude toward foreigners. They could no longer be patronized. Egyptian troops became more aggressive both to the south and to the north. Within Egypt, foreigners still living in the land were put to work on government projects. What are those government projects? Clearly us building the temples and obelisks. And not too many years later, a move was made toward population control. That's in the scriptures. That population control killing all the babies. Within the atmosphere of increasing oppression, Moses was born. Again, this is Bible archaeology, an exploration of the history and culture of early civilizations. And it reads, let me jump down. Did you jump on Thutmose? The third
I didn't dive all the way to him.
Okay, that's fine. Hey, but nevertheless, this is more proof. This is more proof in the pudding that we were literally in Egypt building the pyramids, building the obelisks. Right? We're getting actual history. So a lot of Jake say, well, where's your sources? Where does it say that? How do I know? The Bible isn't real. Hey, this is lining up directly with the Bible. You have people called Bible archaeologists, biblical historians. They go to these sites, they get the fact checks, they get multiple sources to corroborate or to confirm if it's true or false, and they write it down.
That's why so many people went to Egypt anyway, because of the Bible and the story of the Exodus. Now go real fast, go back to Ahmose. I want to show something about his son. Because Ahmose kind of conquered during the latter end to his reign. So his son picked up where he left off. Right? So go up. You can click on the successors. His successor, go up on the side there. His successor is Amenhotep I. That's his son. Right? Now scroll, we'll click his name, scroll down to foreign policy. Right, because we know the foreign policy of Egypt was down population control, right? Check it out. It says Utmost the first, Horus and two lady names, Bull who conquers the lands, and he who inspires great terror are generally interpreted to mean that Amenhotep the first intended to dominate the surrounding nations, right? So its name basically was meaning he who inspires great terror, right? And during his reign, that's when it was throwing the babies out, man. All hell was breaking loose. All right. I mean, like I said, we can really dive even deeper, but we got other stuff to go into. But after his reign, you had different kings rising up, all the way to Thutmose III, and that's when we got freed out of Egypt.
Now, the date for all of this is circa 1570 to 1069 BC. You know, Jake always asks for a date, you know. But to be a little bit more specific,
Because you got to think the Exodus was in 1446.
yeah,
The Exodus was in 1446. Moses did the Exodus when he was 80. So let's 1446 by 80. Yeah, like 1526. So during 1526, you had Thutmose the first, because you actually got two different timelines of Egypt. There's one called high chronology, one called low chronology. The high chronology actually makes more sense due to the lining up of history. Like even if you go back to Amenhotep real fast, and click his successor. His successor was Thutmose the first. Right? Let's scroll to the next one. After Thutmose the first, that's when you had Thutmose the second. Right? Click it. And then you got Hatshepsut, right, which is the daughter of Pharaoh. That's the daughter of Pharaoh, Hatshepsut. Right, and again, these dates on Wikipedia, you can't really, because you got different chronologies. Let's see if it shows us that. Yeah, actually, it shows us that. Go to, it might be on hers. I'm gonna see if I don't know if it's on hers too. Right? Go back to, just to show what I mean by that. Go back to Amenhotep the first real fast.
right here.
Oh yeah, scroll down. So I can, dates and length of reign.
You can go right there.
Right, where right here, like these are different sources right here. You got 570 BC. Like where does it say at the top? What does it actually say? Scroll up. It say he died in 525, but it's different versions of his reign.
Yeah.
Right? So you gotta base it and filter things through the scripture at the end of the day. Right? So it's really around like not the 1800s, probably like around the 1500s to like the 1400s. BC.
You say various sources.
Yeah. Because you got high chronology and low chronology. Like some people even say, like, about the 1194. That don't even make sense. That's well after the Exodus, during the time of Judges. But Hatshepsut was the daughter of Pharaoh. And from her, that's when you got Thutmose III, and that's when we got freed out of Egypt.
Yep.
Right? For the most part.
And now you can get everything the brother said. It all lines up with this rose books, Bible charts, maps, and timelines. Word for word, it all lines up. So, yeah, that's plain. He even mentions the dates. Amenhotep, roughly 1545 to 1529. And Moses came to the scene. So
They actually got Amenhotep on there.
literally.
Yeah, see, they basing off high chronology right there,
Yeah.
for the most part. Which makes more sense. Because during his reign, you got Hatshepsut, which he would have been raised by. Because he would have been 11 at the time, or 8 at the time of his birth, basically. So it gets deep, but we're trying to dive into every one. right? We're trying to dive into every one.
That's right.
It's a local chronology.
What?
Local chronology.
Well, we wanted high chronology for the most part, if we got that on there.
No, I ain't got
That's more accurate.
Yes, actually, it's way more accurate.
Hey, so you know we gotta learn about, you know, America's troubles.
Even
and
go to
revolts,
Thutmose III real fast.
the Boston Tea Party. It makes no damn near every detail. Who was the general? What time it happened?
This
Was it
stuff's
day or
so
night?
ancient they can't even pinpoint it. But if you base it off the scriptures, 1446 is the date of the Exodus. So we gotta go to Thutmose III. Right, you got Hatshepsut, right, which was, I believe, she's the daughter of Thutmose I.
Yeah, that's one of those books.
Yeah. Thutmose III. Now scroll down to dates and reigns of Lynn. Dates and reigns of Lynn. Right, but even when you look at this, it says Thutmose reigned at this time period, according to the low chronology. This has been the conventional Egyptian chronology in academic circles since the 60s. Though some circles, the oldest dates is 1504 to 4, it's like 450 BC, preferred to the high chronology. And that's during the time of the Exodus. Because Thutmose III was that dude, man. Right? And even when you look at Thutmose III, check this out. Click on his children. Go to his children. This is how we know this is him. Go to his first son. Right there. Check this out. Check it out at the bottom. It says, Amen had proceeded predeceased his father who ruled more than 30 years after his Hatshepsut died. Oh no, it's like that's not what I was doing.
Predeceased.
Yeah, I mean he died before his father. This is what I want to show. This he's the firstborn of Thutmose III. I want to show. It actually said he died. I mean that says it right there that he predeceased.
Yeah.
He predeceased his father. Right, meaning he died before his father's time to reign. So he never got to reign. And we understand that the firstborn in Egypt was killed.
It's like and then they have like short reigns in Egypt because they was dying off quick.
Well, during this time period, yeah. During this time period for sure. But he predeceased his father. He didn't get to reign. Right? And his brother had to reign. He was the firstborn.
So that made me back off the scriptures when the Lord slayed the firstborn up to the throne.
Yeah, he killed the firstborn of Thutmose. The third.
So Thutmose was reigning at that time. Huh?
Yeah, so Thutmose III had to be reigning during that time.
The Bible's so cold, but
So you can't get around it, man.
Bible fire, bro.
Right? You just simply can't get around it.
Too accurate, boy.
And he reigned to
Bible
450 BC. Roughly. Right? So you can't get around that, man.
It say the new kingdom.
Yeah, it's during the new kingdom of Egypt. During the 18th dynasty, he got taken out this thing. Right? So he predeceased his father, man. He died before his father died. He was the firstborn. That's why his brother got to reign. Because he died before he could reign.
It says half brother.
Yeah, his half brother got to reign.
I'm in hotel.
Yep, the second.
Killed his reign, man.
See that? So the Lord killed him, man.
Right.
He even said he was the eldest son and appointed heir of the throne, but he predeceased his father. It's plain, man. See that? He was the eldest son. He was the firstborn, but he died before he could reign, man. See that?
What's his name?
Oh.
When it died.
I don't know if every source don't necessarily put him, but it say Amen Hat.
Or Thomas the third.
He's Thutmose the third.
Oh, that's his son.
of
Son of Thomas.
Yeah, he was the oldest son, but he died before he could reign.
That's a lame ass name.
So the Lord took the firstborn.
I'm in that. I'm in that hat.
Yeah, Thutmose the third was the
I'm in the
pharaoh during that
I'm in the
time.
hat.
And the Lord killed his son, man, up to the throne. His son died. It never tell you how his son died, though.
They don't want to.
I should look it up. Like, how did he die?
Yeah, more like a slave.
I'm gonna look it up.
Most High killed him.
Kill the firstborn, man, up to the throne.
Put him out. No, he was in the crib first. He probably made him flip the son. That's hard saying though. Makes you get your own son.
They all died. There's something. Nobody killed them.
That was the angel.
That's the Most High. He killed him up to the throne. He killed the firstborn of Pharaoh up to the throne.
They say he was murdered. Apparently, he died by this.
Yeah, he was murdered, all right. Death angel murdered him.
All right, scroll down.
I mean, a heart attack or something.
Who's I'm in hot.
I'm in the hat.
It's just different people trying to equate him to being that pharaoh during that time. That's all that is. Yep, so he got murdered for sure, man.
Yep.
Right? That's a fact. You had something he was bringing up.
I'm talking about he was killed by his guards.
That's a different one. That's not the same one. You gotta say son of Pharaoh. I mean son of Thutmose III. Yeah, that's a different. That's a different. I'm in that. Yeah, how did he die? They say he was.
Probably gave everybody a heart attack.
Yeah, that's a different one. Cause they say he's the son of. That's a different one.
That's Exodus, the 11th chapter.
Right. So he doesn't have too much
On there.
history on him because he died, man. He got taken out the game, man. That's all that really matters, is that he died.
Right.
That's Exodus 11 and 5.
You can bring that up.
So there was a death angel.
Exodus 11:5, bring it up.
It's the book of Exodus chapter 11. And matter of fact, I'll start at verse 4. It says, and Moses said, thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it anymore.
See, that's plain.
Most High sent that death angel, man. That's how you die.
And even during the time of Amenhotep II, because during the time of Thutmose III, Egypt was going crazy, conquering Canaan back to back. But during the Amenhotep II, it was a little weaker as a nation, man. It was a little weaker.
Most High bring the plagues upon them.
All right, so basically, after the Exodus, after Egypt was destroyed, it was over with by that time. So it wasn't nothing they can do. Right? That's basically how this thing went. Right, so
I did have something.
bring it up.
Now, this may not be the next major captivity, but nevertheless, it's proof that we were still put in, slavery right after. Oh, wait. It's like during the time of the Egyptian captivity war, right? This is during the time of the Egyptian captivity as well. This is the Black Holocaust for beginners. Again, although it may not have been the next major captivity, it was still, captivity. And that's okay. This is page 14.
Yep.
The Black Holocaust by S.E. Sanders. And it reads, by July 15th, 1419. Oh, it's like. Wrong. I jumped the gun. I digress.
All right, different captivity. All right, so after this captivity, after the Egyptian captivity, that's when you got the Assyrian captivity. Get Jeremiah 7 and 15.
What's Jeremiah 7 and verse 15.
All right,
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 7 and verse 15.
all right.
And I will cast you out of my sight, as I have cast out all you brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim.
Even the whole seed of Ephraim. So you got the northern kingdom of Israel. They got cast out of the Lord's sight because the Lord had a split between the nations. And it kept going off and going off and going off. So the Lord had some cooked up for them, man. And put them in captivity. Right? Get Sirach 47 and 21.
The book of Sirach, chapter 47 and verse 21
Right.
reads, so the kingdom was
The
divided.
Lord say?
So the kingdom was divided.
Right, because we got established after Moses, right? Joshua came up and conquered the land of Canaan. We got established. We had judges, and we ended up having kings. But the kingdom got divided after the kingdom of Solomon during Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Right? Keep reading.
It says, so the kingdom was divided, and out of Ephraim ruled a rebellious king.
Right? A rebellious kingdom came out of Ephraim. Right? Every king of the damn northern kingdom was wicked, man. Every single last one of them. So the Lord, right? So the Lord had to do some things, man. He had to put them in captivity. Right? Get the book of Amos. Right? The book of Amos, chapter 3 and verse 12. Amos chapter 3 and verse 12.
The book of Amos, all right, chapter 3 and verse 12.
Right?
Thus saith the Lord, as the shepherd taketh out of the mouth of the lion 2 legs,
Right?
or a piece of an ear,
Right?
so shall the children of Israel be taken out that dwell in Samaria in the corner of a bed, and in Damascus in a couch.
Right, so the Lord said, and he gonna take Israel out of Samaria. He gonna cut them out of Samaria. Right? And he did that with the Assyrian Empire. They came up against Israel and conquered them. Right? And that's what 722 BC. Right, your brother gotta pull it up. Right? During 722 BC, that's when they mainly conquered. But even before then, right, you had Tiglath-Pileser, he already was weakening. Because it take a while to conquer a nation. Right, so it was over years, but the final conquering during Salmanassar was in 722 BC. Right, because they kept going off. They kept sinning. So the Lord had to put them in slavery, man. Right, let's get that in 2 Kings. Right, this 2 Kings 18.
Book of
verse,
2 Kings.
verse, it's like 2 Kings 18, verse 9.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 18 and verse 9.
Right?
And it came to pass in the 4th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel,
Right?
that Salmanassar, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it.
Right, so Israel was already weakened by this point, but they finally took out the capital of Samaria. Right, go to 2 Kings 15 and get verse number 29.
The book of Second Kings?
2 Kings 15 to 29.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 15 and verse 29.
Right?
In the days of Pekah, king of Israel, came Tiglath-Pileser,
Right.
king of Assyria,
Right, this is before Salmanassar, right, Reed?
and took Ijon and Abel Beth Machah and Jonoah and Kadesh and Hazor and Gilead and Galilee and the land, so like all the land of Naphtali,
Right.
and carried them captive to Assyria.
Right, so during Tiglath-Pileser, they already was conquering Israel, already conquering Israel and taking them slaves. Right, that's why when you read in 2 Kings from like 16 on down, the kingdoms was real weak and killing each other, and it was short range because this one wanted to be with the Assyrians, so he'd kill him, and then he wanted to not be with the Assyrians, and they'd team up and try to fight again, and all hell was breaking loose because during their reigns, you had all hell break. You had Tiglath, he was doing his thing. And it's really the third, Tiglath the third,
Tiglath-Pileser.
right? The third, he was doing his thing, man. Right? He had weakened the nation so much. So Salmanassar, he just came in, did that final siege, and took him out. Right? He took him out the game.
And this was king of Assyria.
He said 1/3. Yeah, that's the king of Assyria. These all are different kings of Assyria conquering Israel. You gotta think, it takes time to just conquer a nation.
Oh,
So Salmanassar didn't just come and destroy a powerful nation like Israel, but it was already weakened during his reign. He already conquered and carried people to slavery.
and then quick question. And this chiefly northern kingdom.
This is all northern kingdom. That's all their land that he took,
You're trying to make sure that's all. The water.
right? All their land he took. And they tried to conquer Jerusalem, but the Lord sent that plague and killed, what was it, 250,000, something like that,
Dang.
during the 2 Kings 18. Yeah, they tried to conquer Jerusalem, but it ain't work out too well. All right?
Who they have? One angel.
Yeah, the Lord had, it wasn't Jerusalem's time to get conquered. But Samaria, they got out of it. Like, the Lord wasn't dealing with Samaria.
Northern Kingdom.
And it's happened because the northern kingdom was wicked and going off. That precept,
Very
bring it out.
This is. What up, the date yet?
722, yeah, I said the date. Bring it out. That's 722 BC. But Pelizia is probably like, what's that, like 740 BC? Like 20 years or 30 years prior. See when Pelizia reigned, the third.
745.
Yeah, he reigned from 745 to 727 BC. Alright, so he had already weakened the nation during his reign. Right, and this guy was going in, man. This is when the Assyrians fully started doing their thing
Right.
during his reign. Because the Assyrians, you got to understand, there was already stuff going on. So when the prophets like Amos and Isaiah, when they prophesied to the northern kingdom, saying, "Hey, the Assyrians gonna come, man,"
Right.
that was something to be feared. Like they knew who the Assyrians was. They had a name around the nations for terrorizing people.
Right.
If you look it up, the Assyrians, they used to torture and torment people.
Damn.
They put hooks in your jaw and carried them as slaves. That's in the scripture.
Yeah, it's literally in there. This is page 120 of Bible Archaeology. Alfred Horth and John McCrae.
Nope.
It reads, I'm going to start on page 120, the last paragraph. During the 9th and 8th centuries BC, Assyria increasingly intruded into the history of Palestine. Assyria had appeared on the horizon during the reign of Omri, but Ahab was first to meet that rising power on the battlefield. When he died, Ahab left a strong and prosperous Israel. But only a dozen years afterward, Jehu was forced to pay tribute to Shalmaneser. A period of Assyrian weakness allowed a time of relative peace and prosperity.
Okay, I want to show something on that. It said Jehu, he was forced to pay tribute. Look up the Black Obelisk. It's called the Black Obelisk. It actually shows that in Assyrian monuments. Obelisk, no, it's AP, K, something like that. ELISH, something like that. Well, do this. Look up Jehu. Type in Jehu, pay tribute. Jehu. This is the king of Israel. Right, he just read that, but I just want to show it's in that thing. It's tell you about it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Black Obelisk. Okay.
Yeah.
Obelisk.
Yep.
Okay, OB.
Right here.
Shalmaneser the third, right? Check this out.
Wanna click on this?
Nah, you can just Google it, Google that document.
Oh, shit.
I gotta get into the archaeology. It proves these things, man. Bible's not a fairy tale.
Right.
Right, click that right there. Wikipedia. Right, so this black obelisk actually depicts Jehu giving tribute. It says right there, it says, in the second paragraph, it said, it is one of the two complete Assyrian obelisks yet discovered. The other one being the much earlier white obelisk and Ashur-Nisapal the first, and it is historically significant because it is thought to display the earliest ancient depiction of the Bible figure Jehu, king of Israel. Right? Scroll down. I want to see the depiction.
You want to see the picture?
The depiction right here. It says it features 20 relief scenes, 5 on each side. They depict 5 different subdued kings bringing tribute and prostrating before the Assyrian king. And one of them, it says, the second one, it says, Yahu of Bit Omri, Jehu of the house of Emri, right? So Jehu had to pay tribute to the Assyrians. But Ahab, when you read, what's that, 1 Kings 20, he faced the Assyrians and he actually won. But the Assyrians, you know, they kept trying to reconquer that land. Because the land of Canaan is the perfect land to have for war, for commerce. It's just a perfect land to have in the Middle East. Right, so they always was fighting for that land. So shortly after, that's when Jehu came and he had to pay some tribute.
That's right.
But yeah, you can keep reading that article. I just wanted to show that.
That's Yahu by Yah Amr, man.
Yep.
So it reads this. Oh man, it's history deep, man. This is again Bible archaeology, page 48. The number of men and chariots Ahab contributed to the. Is that what I want to start?
Where should we leave off?
I start there. Yeah.
That's during that war where they fought.
Yeah, I won't go. I mean, look, hey, well, I'm gonna bring it up. Contributed, Slakia. The number of men and chariots Ahab contributed to the coalition implies that he was one of the more powerful kings of the day. There is no mention, however, of this battle in the scriptures. The biblical writers' focus was on Ahab's religious condition, not his military might. The battle of Kakar represents the first physical contact between Israel and Assyria. Assyria had heard about the land of Omri. Now their forces had met on the battlefield. And again, like the brother said, you know, it takes a while to conquer somebody. You know, it took like a couple of sieges for Israel to be conquered by the Babylonians. And I'm gonna keep reading. When in 1841 BC, Shalmaneser III marched west again, Jehu had begun his reign over Israel. This time, no coalition came out to meet the Assyrians, although the siege was laid to Damascus. The city did not fall. The Assyrian army moved southward to Mount Carmel, right? And that's, if I'm not mistaken, northern Israel.
Yeah, that is it.
Where the Annals say they received tribute from Tyre, Sidon, and Jehu, the son of Omri. Here is another event in the reign of an Israelite king. And it reads this on the next page. It has the black obelisk. And that's nothing but a damn trophy, right, to the king. Like, yeah, I got you. I want you to do this. Y'all pretty much bowing down to me, and that's mine.
Yep.
And that's humiliating. So it says
Click that one right there.
the black.
The black and white one.
Right here?
Right there.
Yeah, that's
right of that.
Fringes?
Yeah.
That's number 2, yep.
That's when they poke your eye out and drag you on your cheek, put a hook in your jaw.
Right here?
No, I wanted the other one. That's just them torturing people.
What about this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, fringes on you said?
No, the other one. The other one, not
I'm
this
saying,
one.
look, he got hooks in their jaw. That's how they got carried to captivity.
This is the king right here, right?
Yeah, they'll poke your eye out and put chains on you in your mouth. That's how they carry you to slavery. Which I'll find.
The black obelisk, Shalmaneser III, this obelisk stands 6.5 feet. Brother, you trying to stand? Aren't you 6'3"? Trying to stand up, Bob Bashar, just for visual representation. So that's literally how tall that obelisk was, man. Literally.
That's obviously his whole damn guy.
Oh, it's like this 6'5", 6'3", right? It's a few inches taller than that, brother. Of the different campaigns featured on the steel, our interest here is the portion of showing Jehu kneeling before the Assyrian king. We already brought that out in the article, Wikipedia. Interest here is in the portion showing Jehu kneeling before the Assyrian king. On the steel, Shalmaneser says, I received from him silver, gold, and a golden bowl, a golden vase with pointed bottom golden temples, golden buckets, 10, a staff for a king, and a wooden per hutu. You trying to Google that? P-U-R-U H2U. H-T-U.
I know what you're
That's foggy. You gotta go with an R.
Oh wait, say it again.
No, you gotta go to like not images. Cause that's probably a word in another language.
Can you spell it again?
It's
Yes, I'm
P-U-R-U.
It's like let me You said P.
P-U-R-U-H 2 it's like it T-U.
HT.
I thought he was gonna say H2O. He said nine. What?
This thing right here, a staff for a king and wooden piritu.
Yeah, I wanted the exact image of it. That's fine too. This is suffice.
Hmm.
So these are this is literally in museums, literally, but the Bible's not real. Come on now.
I'm just gonna look up
But,
Assyrian style.
Let me continue reading this last part. It says, relief of Tiglath-Pileser III, the panel relief depicts his army conquering an unidentified city. The men on the left carry, and I'm gonna show the camera. The men on the left carry spears and shields as they use a scalding ladder to gain entry into the city. On the right, a battering ram breaking down the defense walls. Behind the ram, at a greatly different scale. Shows the archers and people dying, people surrendering. This is how it looks. Show the camera.
Damn.
Let me read the last section, which was only recorded extra biblically. Jehu's tribute is commemorated on what we today call the Black Obelisk of Shalmaneser. On this obelisk, Jehu is shown kneeling before Shalmaneser III, and the accompanying text lists the gifts he paid to placate the Assyrians. The Bible implies that although Jehu had respectively long reign, he was never particularly a strong ruler. The Black Obelisk supports that impression.
Toe up.
Yeah, because you the king of your land, man. I gotta, here you go. That's not. That's off.
Yeah, man.
Nobody wants to do that.
Like that's that Assyrian captivity. And the Assyrians was brutal too, man.
Yeah. And that's why Esau is the modern day Assyrians as well. Yeah, we say he's the modern day Egyptians. He's the modern day Assyrians as well. The Assyrians was off.
I'm trying to find this priest. I can't
You got some with the Assyrian captivity?
trying to find this precept.
I'm gonna bring out Judah alone. Right? It's 722. It reads, as of 722 BC, Israel was no longer an entity. And Israel considered all the Palestine vassal territory. When Hezekiah began his reign with a series of religious reforms, he was probably motivated by the knowledge of what had just befallen Israel. Like, hold up, what the hell? And it reads, we gotta get together, right? We gotta get it together. Sargon II continued to send armies into Palestine.
That picture with the hooks on it.
But after his death, Hezekiah joined in to revolt against Assyrian control. Assyrian reliefs and texts record what happened. And it shows you pages. That's why I don't want to get too deep into it, but
I want to just get one more. Get Amos 4:1. You bring out that picture. Just type in Assyrian carry with hooks or something like that. Captives, hooks. Just pull up the images. You can pull up that picture.
This one.
Any one of them matters. Any one of those first three can. Alright. Check that out. Poking eyes out and pulling them by their jaw with hooks. That look like that's in their nose. Right, bring that up. Amos 4:1.
The book of Amos, chapter 4 and verse 1.
Right?
Hear this word, ye kind of Bashan, that are in the mountains of Samaria, which oppress the poor, which crush the needy, which say to their masters, bring and let us drink.
Right?
The Lord God hath sworn by his holiness that lo, the day shall come upon you that he will take you away with hooks and your posterity with fish hooks.
See that? So the Lord said he gonna take them away with hooks. The Samarians, and they got conquered by the Assyrians. And this how they was taking them away, man. Put a damn hook in their goddamn nose, man. Or a hook in their jaw and drag their ass to goddamn wherever they throw them at, man. Alright, get 1 Kings 17 real fast. Alright, that's why Samaria became a place of that Israel kind of looked down on by like the Jews. Right? 17, 1 King, or it's like the 2 King 17. Let's start at verse 24.
2 Kings 17 and 24.
Yeah.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 17 and verse 24.
Right.
And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon, and from Cutha, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof.
Right, so he moved Israel out of there and put heathen in the place of them. Right, that's basically what happened with Samaria. Right, keep reading.
And it was at the beginning of their dwelling there that they feared not the Lord. Therefore the Lord sent lions among them, which slew some of them. Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which thou hast removed and placed in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of God of the God of the land. Therefore he has sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the God of the land.
Right, keep reading.
It says, then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry thither one of the priests whom ye brought from thence.
Right, he said, bring one of the priests that you took out of Samaria, bring them back, man. Even though they was already off anyway, right, Rick?
And let them go and dwell there, and let them teach the manner of the God of the land.
Right?
Then one of the priests whom they had carried away from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear the Lord.
Like he taught them the commandments, the nations. Like this how you gotta keep up with this land. Right, Rick?
Howbeit every nation made gods of their own, and put them in the houses of the high places which the Samarians have made, every nation in their cities wherein they dwell.
You see that? So that's basically how that went down, man. Right? So although they had priests set up trying to teach them the nations like how to live in Israel, they kept going off. And over centuries and centuries and centuries, Samaria just became a place of the heathen, basically, man. So the Jews didn't have no dwelling or dealings with the people in Samaria. And that's what happened with Samaria in Israel. Now, who was left? The Jews, the northern kingdom. The southern kingdom.
That's right.
And that's when you get to the Babylonian captivity.
I got Isaiah 9 and 1 through 2.
The book of Isaiah,
Shemai,
chapter 9,
Shemai.
verses
Isaiah
1
9 and 1.
through 2.
All right.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 9, verses 1 through 2, it reads,
All right.
nevertheless, the dimness shall not be such as was in her vexation, when at the first he lightly afflicted the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, and afterward did more grievously afflict her by the way of the sea beyond Jordan in Galilee or Galilee of the nations. The people that walk in darkness have seen a great light.
It's like it really just verse 1. That's what happened to Northern Kingdom. They got jammed up, by the Assyrians. They got afflicted. You can go to the next chapter, Isaiah 10, and jump to verse 5.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 10 and verse 5. O Assyrian, the rod of my anger and the staff in their hand is my indignation. I will send him against a hypocritical nation and against the people of my wrath. Will I give him a charge to take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire in streets.
Pretty much step upon us. Right? Put the foot upon our necks, and we got to deal with it.
All right, so you got any more preachers on the series or any accounts?
Let me see real quick.
I was gonna say, what happened with Assyria. So this is brief information on these different captivities.
That's it.
All right, so the next captivity is the Babylonian captivity. Right, get first. It's like Second Kings. Right, Second Kings. I want chapter 21.
In there.
Actually, you know, I probably want this one.
Which one you want to?
Yeah, 21. Get First Kings 21.
First Kings.
Second Kings 21. The verse number 1.
You want about money?
Yeah.
The book of Second Kings, chapter 21 and verse 1.
Now this is well after the northern kingdom is out of there, right? Read.
The book of Second Kings, chapter 21 and verse 1.
Right.
Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to wane,
Right.
and reigned 50 years in Jerusalem.
Right.
And his mother's name was Hephzibah.
Right.
Hephzibah. Verse 2. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, after the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel.
Right. So he did abominable past what the heathen did, which was the Canaanite. Right.
For verse 3, for he built up again the high places which Hezekiah his father had destroyed, and he reared up altars for Baal and made a grove, as did Ahab king of Israel, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven and served them.
Right. Jump down to verse 6.
Verse 6, and he made his son pass through the fire,
Sacrificed his son.
and observed times, and used enchantments,
Right. He was a damn wizard. Right. Read.
and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger.
Right. Read.
And he set a graven image of the grove that he made in the house, of which the Lord said to David and to Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever.
You see, he said, I'm gonna put my name forever on this house, but he put an idol in that thing. Right. Read.
Neither will I make the feet of Israel move any more out of the land which I have gave their fathers, only if they will observe to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to all the law that my servant Moses commanded them.
You see, I jump. Verse 10.
Jumping
Sorry,
down.
11.
Verse 11.
Right.
Because Manasseh king of Judah have done these abominations, and have done wickedly above all that the Amorites did, which were before him, and have made Judah also to sin with his idols.
Right.
Therefore said the Lord God of Israel, behold, I am bringing such evil upon Jerusalem and Judah, that whosoever heareth of it, both his ears shall tingle.
Damn. So that's why the Lord did that to Judah and Jerusalem. He said, your ears go tingle
Just off
at the
the ear.
evil that you hear that's going to happen to Jerusalem. All because Manasseh went to hell off above the Amorites. Right, so he judged us, man. Right, he judged us on a high level, man. And what happened was the Babylonian captivity. Like, the Babylonian captivity happened to us, man. Right, what was it 3 different sieges?
Right. If I'm not mistaken, under his rule, Isaiah got slain asunder, cut in asunder.
Madness, man. So, I want to, it's a lot on the Babylonian captivity.
You know, he repented, but, you know, still, had to go in captivity. And get that too.
Like 1 Kings 25 and 1.
The book of 1 Kings, chapter 25, and verse 1.
Right, so this is
Wait.
a little while after, right? You had
Second Kings.
Manasseh, then you had his son, you had Josiah, his grandson, different rank rulers, and then now we fast forward into the Babylonians. Yeah, 2 Kings.
The
25.
book of 2 Kings, chapter 25, and verse 1. And it came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, in the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came, he and all his hosts, against Jerusalem, and pitched against it, and they built forts against it round about.
Right?
And the city was besieged unto the 11th year of King Zedekiah.
Right? And that's was the last reigning king over Israel, Zedekiah. Right? They besieged Israel during Zedekiah, and that's when they finally fully conquered it. Right? Keep reading.
And on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine prevailed in the city, and there was no bread for the people of the land.
Right? And you read that in Lamentations. They was eating their own kids, things of that nature. Right? Because it was a heavy famine. Because that's what you would do. You would cut off people's food supplies around the land. Right? Read.
And the city was broken up, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between two walls, which is by the king's garden. Now the Chaldees were against the city round about, and the king went the way toward the plain.
Right?
And the army of the Chaldees pursued after the king and overtook him, and the plains of Jericho and all his army were scattered from him.
Right?
So they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon to Riblah, and they gave judgment upon him.
Right? It took Zedekiah, read.
And they slew the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes,
Killed all his sons.
and put out the eyes of Zedekiah and bound him with fetters of brass and carried him to Babylon.
You know, so the last thing he ever saw was his sons getting killed before his face. And they plucked his eyes out, man. So the Babylonians was going crazy, man. Right?
Yeah.
This is the things that said the Lord said to make their ears tingle. Read Lamentations, man. And the judgment that the Lord did upon the Israelites during the siege of Babylon. Because the siege isn't pretty, man. It's not just, it's a siege of a city. Your food is missing, houses burning, they take all hell breaking loose, man. Right? So that's what happened. This is 589 BC. Right? 589 BC when Israel got conquered fully. Right? Look that up. Babylonian siege. Babylon siege Jerusalem. Because they did it 3 separate times, I believe. What's that? 597 BC. Oh yeah, there you go. You got 597 BC. It's other sieges though.
Hey, brothers gotta write these days down. This is mighty.
597 BC. That's one siege. That's not the siege we're reading about. Then you got 589 BC. Look this up. Look up.
Start search up sieges.
Yeah.
Babylonian sieges words. Israel.
Yeah, it was more. It's more than one siege. You got the final siege, but during Zedekiah that's when they finally conquered Israel. Right, and you even read that when you're reading like Daniel and things like that. During certain kings, certain men was taken to captivity. Matter of fact, let's get that. Let's get Ezekiel. Get Ezekiel real fast. Get Ezekiel the first chapter. Get Ezekiel chapter 1 and verse 1.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 1,
Matter of fact, start at 2.
verse 2.
Yeah.
The book of Ezekiel, chapter 1 and verse 2.
Right?
In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of King Jehoiakim's captivity.
Right, so King Jehoiakim went into captivity well before, right? Like I said right there, 605. That's during the first portion, right? Scroll down. Then you got 597. That's during King Jehoiakim. And then scroll down. Then you got the final siege, 589, roughly 586 BC. Right, so this during King Jehoiakim's captivity when Ezekiel was getting the visions. Right, so go to Daniel chapter 1.
Ezekiel the first chapter. Some simple.
Actually, yeah, get Daniel chapter 1 and verse 1.
The book of Daniel, chapter 1 and verse 1.
Right?
In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem and besieged it.
Right, that's this is the first or the second. Or it's like this is the first the portion right here. Right? 597 BC. Or the second one, so like 597 BC, right? Keep reading.
And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar,
But he gave him part of the vessels, but he took the rest during at the final siege, right, Reed?
to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God.
Right, that's during the second the portion, right? So I want to get on the first one, right? Bear with me, right? Second Kings.
They got precepts on the first one, I think.
Oh, they actually got precepts in there.
Yeah. They got Daniel 1-7.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we kind
They
of
got
just read.
Second Chronicles 35 and 27.
I believe you might have went in twice on there. I'm trying to see some. Second Kings, right? Chapter 24.
24 and 10. You want to start at 8?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Start at 8.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 24, verse 8. Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he began to wane. And he waned in Jerusalem 3 months. And his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done.
Right?
At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up against Jerusalem,
Right.
and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it.
Right.
And Jehoiachin, the king of Judah, went out to the king of Babylon. He and his mother and his servants and his princes and his officers. And the king of Babylon took him in the 8th year of his reign. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold, which Solomon king of Israel had made in the temple of the Lord, as the Lord had said.
Right. And at this time, that's when he set up Hezekiah as the puppet king as well.
Mm.
Right? So these are different the portions of Israel. All right, go back to that. You still in that article? Right, scroll up, man, for me. I can give a little information on it. But I'm gonna just read the first portion. Go back, man. Read the first portion. All right, where it says, Judah's initial portion was part of the larger geographical battles in the 7th century. I want to read from here. What part do I want? Oh yeah, after Josiah's death, his son Jehoaz became king, but lasted only 3 months. Pharaoh Necho, on his return from the battle of Haran, deposed Jehoaz and installed Jehoiakim, his older brother, as king. Jehoiakim, a vassal of Egypt, was ruling when Babylon's king Nebuchadnezzar expelled the Egyptians and brought Judah under Babylonian rule in 605 BC. And he pledged his loyalty to Babylon. So scroll down to the second one. To the second the portion. It says, after 3 years of loyalty of Babylon, despite heavy taxes, Jehoiachin rebelled. Initially, the Lord afflicted Judah by sending neighbor countries against it. Then Nebuchadnezzar came again. He had Jehoiachin bound in chains, and the temple robbed of his treasures. Right, and that's what we just read in 24. Right, now go down to the third one. It says, from the time of King Josiah, Jeremiah, the Lord's prophet. That's not what I want to scroll down. Well, actually, that's actually good on that. So just like during the Assyrian captivity, it took time to fully destroy Jerusalem, but the Lord made it happen, man.
That's right.
The Lord made it happen.
Some of the 3 major dates in my I gotta find my other book as well. But it was 586, 597, and 605. the three major sieges.
That's what's, I think that's on here. 586,
Oh, for real?
597, and then 605.
Let's see
Those are
that.
the different the portions.
Hey, hold up. What's this website called? That's me.
IsraelMyGlory.org.
Yeah,
I
so
can see that.
basically they conquer
I didn't see
they
that.
capture Jehoiakim basically.
That's right. Here's the country.
Next to his kid.
Jehoiakim's kids?
Is that a gun?
No, they just put them in slavery. They just set up Zedekiah. They killed Zedekiah's kids, right? But get up first, 2 Kings 24:1 real
Yeah.
quick.
Book of 2 Kings, chapter 24, verse 1. Right? Reads. Lucky. It say, the book of 2 Kings, chapter 24, verse 1. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him.
Right, that's going into that first. That's that 605 one, right?
And the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldees, and bands of the Assyrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the children of Ammon, and sent them against Judah to destroy it against Judah to destroy it according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by his servants, the prophets.
You see that? Then he swore his allegiance, then his son came up, and that's when back they sieged it in 597. Then they set up Zedekiah, then that's when they finally besieged it and took it out. So you got Jehoiakim, and then Zedekiah. During all their reigns, it's the reigns when Babylon took out the Jews out of Babylon. That's when that happened, through the spirit. It's actually 137. So you got anything you was bringing up?
Can you get 2 Kings 25 and 1?
Book of 2 Kings, chapter 25.
We brought that out.
Oh, you already brought this up?
Yeah.
I'm gonna read this account. And again, Bible archaeology, page 122. It's like 2 sentences. Thanks to this collapse, Judah experienced a few years of jump down. In Nebuchadnezzar, who swept Judah into the new Chaldean Empire, Judah festered under Chaldean control, and during the reign of Zedekiah, withheld tribute one time too many. As Nebuchadnezzar marched west, Judah desperately sought help from Egypt. Hey, you read about that. That's why he said, hey, why you trying to put your trust in Egypt? Why you reaching out to Egypt? You're going to get jammed up.
You didn't fair to it.
Now, I think Egypt helped one time, and then they didn't get it again the second time. By this time, Lachish had been rebuilt, and excavators of the site found 21 ostraca, broken pieces of pottery that were used much as no paper is today,
And that's probably
dating to
Kish
the
reliefs.
death throes of Judah. Let me get one more part. Oh, it reads, one ostracon from those Lachish letters mentioned that a commander of the host was en route to Egypt. Another refers to the use of fire signals to communicate between cities. Still another ostracon complains that someone in Jerusalem was not supporting the war effort. Could this be a reference to Jeremiah? And it says in 586 BC, Jerusalem went up in flames. So that's when he was getting besieged. Because when you get besieged, you don't just knock on somebody's door. It's real strategic. It's tactics to it.
It was already a vassal state during Jehoiakim's reign. It was a vassal state. He became a servant, and he rebelled after 3 years, 605 BC. Then Jehoiakim, he stood up and he got conquered, and he got put in slavery. Then he set up Zedekiah, who rebelled after 11 years. So it's like they already kind of had their foot on our neck, but it was rebelling against the authority,
Ancient Babylon.
right? Which was a beautiful city that the Lord destroyed via the
Medo-Persian.
Neo-Persian Empire. Had to get them the hell up out of here.
Google the Hagen Gardens of Babylon. This is what you would call one of the 7 wonders of the world.
But still, look at that.
Hey, look, man.
No,
A real one?
no, not that. That
A real one?
It's nice looking, I would say. It's not gonna be like, the kingdom, but, that's nice looking. That was your king. It was a little messy for my taste, but, it's still considered one of the 7 wonders of the world for a reason.
They probably looked it better in the ancient world.
Yeah, these
Yeah, it's all tore down now.
It's ass.
Yeah, these pictures ain't all that.
And then Google now. How does it look today? Modern time, now, 2022. 2022. Nah, I gotta kind of type it in a little different. How do they look now?
Gotta go up name.
I just look at modern day.
It's the search engine, I gotta change it.
Why you getting that? Can you get Jeremiah 39:10 by sure?
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 39. Right?
Because, and I want to bring this out because I'm going to bring it out first. First, we'll find this picture. It was Jeremiah 39:10.
Bring it up.
Not yet. They don't want to show us. They might have to go.
Just look up modern day
Is
Babylon.
that it right there?
Yeah, that's what it
Hey, let's believe that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
That's what it's looking like
we
now.
ain't winning.
Alright? It is what it is. That's
That's
what
what it
it's really looking like, to be honest.
Except the God has destroyed the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
Whatever modern day Babylon look like, that what it is.
That's how the pyramids look too.
You can bring it out here.
Beat up.
Crunch the hell up. We want Jeremiah 39:10. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 39 and verse 10. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the God left of the poor of the people which had nothing in the land of Judah, gave them vineyards and fields at the same time.
And Jeremiah was kind of left in the land. He had an option to kind of, do what you want to do. And he went through hell. So he had to, that's the Most High having mercy upon him. Damn near the whole nation went into captivity except for you
Dang.
and some of the poor. You kind of sit back. I wasn't chilling, but
Now, they was trying to go to Egypt.
yeah.
They said don't do that because the Lord is going to destroy Egypt, which happened. The Babylonians to go to Egypt.
And that's what I just read too. They went. It says as Nebuchadnezzar. Oh no, that's a different account.
Because Jeremiah actually lived through all the different sieges too.
One
That's mighty.
Ashkelon from those Lachish letters mentioned that a commander of hosts was en route to Egypt. So Egypt was about to get jammed up. That's why they say, don't go there, man. Like,
Jeremiah like 44 or something. They was trying to all flee to Egypt. That's off, man.
yeah, always missing Egypt. Probably had the law, they read numbers, still go back to Egypt. Remember how they had leeks and cucumbers?
Wait, get Jeremiah 44 real fast.
Book of Jeremiah.
13.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 44 and verse 13.
Just man.
For I will punish them that dwell in the land of Egypt,
Right.
as I have punished Jerusalem by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence.
Right?
So that none of the women of Judah which are gone into the land of Egypt to sojourn there shall escape or remain, that they should return into the land of Judah, to the which they have a desire to return to dwell there, for none shall return but such as shall escape.
And this is during the time of Zedekiah, man. Right? This is literally during the time of Zedekiah. But he was down when they was getting besieged. Right? Keep reading.
Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the other women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Lord, we will not hearken unto thee.
You see how they said, oh, we understand everything you just said. Thus said the Lord, but we don't care, man. That's what they said, man. They said, hey, we don't give a damn, all right? They said, all the things that you said in the name of the Lord, we will not listen.
That's literally what they do to us on the house.
Yeah, that's literally what they do.
Give me
After everything they just seen,
Yeah.
else, I don't give a damn.
Straight up say, we will not hearken unto thee.
Hey, that's Israel for you.
And we're not gonna listen to nothing you talking about.
That's what they said, man.
Bruh.
That's literally what they
And
said.
then verse 17 even deadlier. It say, but we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, and our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then we had plenty of victuals and were well and saw no evil.
You see that?
I'm
When
a
we was
king.
in that Christian church,
Yeah.
and I ain't have to deal with that, man. I was peaceful. But now we trying to serve the Lord. All hell breaking. That's basically, they just said that. They said we was at peace when we was serving our false
Literally.
God. Bro, you just got destroyed for sacrificing to this false God. That's what I'm thinking as it's saying we go do as we did in the streets of Judah. Well, what happened to the streets of Judah? What happened to the cities? It's destroyed.
They said they saw no evil while they was doing bad, so we just gonna keep the boat rolling.
That's dumb. You just saw the evil.
Right?
Literally. They literally was, like you said, the left of the land.
And that's how Jake is, Fred. We're gonna do what we want to do.
So stuff, it didn't happen in Egypt. It happened to there, so I don't have to worry about that, because it didn't happen to me.
Yeah, basically.
Until it happened.
That's literally like the nukes dropping. And somebody like, look, I'm telling you, we gotta do this. This is all hell. Like, we gotta go here. It's the same thing. They say, I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing, man.
America never gonna get no.
Cause I made it. No, this after they got new. This after already.
Yeah.
All hell already broke loose. They just left there. And they said, let's go to Egypt for help. It's like them saying, hey man, let's go to South America, man. Then they gonna get blew up too, and then you're like, whatever. And then you left.
I'm in Europe now.
Go to Canada.
Yeah, so let's go to Canada, man.
That's what
Like,
they
you
gonna
ain't
say.
just
Yeah, man. Jay ain't gonna ever get it, bro.
We're going to Russia.
It's gonna be people left. It's gonna be people still left. So they go like, let's travel up north. Let's go to Canada. Like,
Thinking
That's
about
what
the
Jake
master
said.
plan and
We're
shit.
gonna go to Canada. Like that's gonna make a difference.
So you get Isaiah 31
Book of Isaiah, right? Chapter.
and 1.
You want 31 and 1?
Yeah.
All right, man. It's the book of Isaiah, right? Chapter 31 and verse 1. Reads. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and horsemen because they are very strong.
Hey,
But they
It's like real quick, Most High knows Israel. Don't think this just happened all of a sudden. He was probably already thinking this wall hell breaking. Maybe we could just go to Egypt. I got a master plan. They had their bug out bags. They had their donkeys. They had their vessels of water. It's just Egypt.
they stocked up on wheat.
They carry their God with them. I got my homie.
You forgot the other. You got the other one. You got your other guy.
Got your guy.
Yeah, he's in my back
I
pocket.
got all 7 of them.
Imagine your God, you can carry your God in your pocket.
I got all 7 of them.
Oh,
I'm
You looking like, I lost my God.
I'm riding my
That's
God.
what,
my God,
that's what Laban said.
that
He
pocket
came back to
monster.
get his God.
They have gods, the number of cities, man.
He couldn't even find his God.
Laban lost his God.
you carrying something that can't save you. How you carrying what's supposed to save you?
They ride
saving
their
it.
God.
Alright, you saving your God. What?
You trying to
You're
bring that
God.
out one more time, Robert Shaw?
The book of Isaiah says in 31 and verse 1.
Funny.
Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help and stay on horses and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord.
Right, these Egyptians don't give a damn. Neither do you, Israel. So, it just do what the Lord said. That's all.
Trusting in Esau, his helicopters,
It's so easy.
his craft machines.
Hey, guess what's going to happen in the wilderness? Guess what Israel's going to say?
We want to go back to America.
America, I did leave a few things over there.
My PlayStation.
On my Bible, I gotta get my Bible
You
out.
sure it's all destroyed?
Yeah, you,
My crib over there.
They probably
destroyed.
go like New York or
Think
something.
about his
Go
mom.
to real fast.
My
I got
mom's.
one more. Get Ezekiel 17. Start at 11.
Take a boat over there.
They gonna say, let's go to Canada when all hell breaks
The
loose.
book of Ezekiel, chapter 17, 1 verse 11, you say?
Yep.
Verse 11.
Right?
Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, say now to the rebellious house, know ye not what these things mean?
Right?
Tell them, behold, the king of Babylon is come to Jerusalem, and have taken the king thereof, and the princes thereof, and led them with him to Babylon.
That's Jehoiakim, right? Read.
And have taken of the king's seed, and made a covenant with him, and have taken an oath of him. He have also taken the mighty of the land.
Right, he left all the poor of the land during Jehoiakim's reign, and he raised up Zedekiah, right? Read.
That the king might be base, that it might not lift itself up. So like it, that the kingdom might be base, that it might not lift itself up, but that by keeping of his covenant it might stand.
Right, that's a war tactic. I'm gonna take all the mighty out the land. I'm gonna leave the poor. I'm gonna set a puppet king over them so the land can stay base and destitute.
Under your control.
Right, keep reading.
But he rebelled against him in sending his ambassadors into Egypt.
Right, he sent his ambassadors to Egypt. Man. That's who Zedekiah seeked help from. Egypt.
Right there was gonna help.
See that? He thought they was gonna help. Like all hell broke loose and the Lord took out Pharaoh, man. Right, read.
But he rebelled against him in sending his ambassadors into Egypt, that they might give him horses and much people. Shall he prosper? Shall he escape that doeth such things? Or shall he break the covenant and be delivered?
You see, that's all I wanted, man. So the Lord, he wasn't dealing with that. So Zedekiah got his sons killed in his face and plucked his eyes out. Right, because he thought he was not go to the Lord, but go to Egypt for help. And it just didn't work out. And Isaiah been prophesied, woe to them to go to Egypt for help. Because, like you said, the Lord already knew what Israel was going to do. He already knew they was going to go to Egypt for help. And not receive it. I gotta,
With that, right, we're going to take a quick intermission. Apparatus that will be able to pick up where we left off, going to the next major captivity, which is the Persian captivity. All right.
that, call me out, son.
Come on,